All right, today we're going to tackle a huge question for anyone working with AI. How do you actually secure the data that makes it all work? Well, the answer really comes down to two key ideas, data lineage and data provenance. So let's dive in and break them down. So, let me just start with a question for you. Can you really, truly trust the decisions your AI is making? I mean, deep down. Because, if you can't trace back where its information came from, you might be setting yourself up for a pretty nasty surprise. And that's the heart of the problem, right? Without a crystal clear history, the data that's feeding your models could be messed with, manipulated, or even poisoned. And the scariest part, you probably wouldn't have a clue it was happening until it was way, way too late. This all leads us to one of the biggest trust issues in AI today, the danger of the black box. You know the deal. We put data in, we get an answer out, but what happens in the middle is often a complete mystery. Just think about it for a second. When your AI model is basically this unauditable black box, you have zero visibility into the why behind its answers. This makes it almost impossible to figure out what went wrong if it spits out a bad result, especially if you're dealing with a clever data poisoning attack. You're falling blind. So how do we start to crack open that black box? Well, the first tool in our toolkit is something called data lineage. And the best way to think about this is as the data's journey. Officially, it's the complete end-to-end record of the data's entire life cycle. It's basically a map that tracks every single step the data takes, from the moment it's created, through all the different systems and changes, right up to the point it gets used by an AI model. So what that means is Lineage is all about answering the big questions about that journey. Questions like, where did this data first come from? How did it get from point A to point B? What changed along the way? Who had their hands on it? And critically, which specific model ended up using it? Now, if you have a cybersecurity background, this is going to click right away. You can think of data lineage as the audit logs for your data. It's like a digital forensics chain of custody that proves exactly what happened to your data every step of the way. And that's why this is so important. Lineage isn't just some nice-to-have feature. It is quite literally the forensic foundation for AI security. Without it, you can't really do a proper investigation when things go wrong. Okay, let's move on to the second piece of the puzzle. If lineage is the journey, then data provenance is all about the origin. So data provenance is all about documenting and, this is the key word, verifying the origin and authenticity of your data. It's the proof that shows with certainty where the data came from and that it is what it says it is. So while Lineage is busy tracking the whole trip, Provenance is laser-focused on the starting line. It answers those really fundamental questions like, where exactly did this piece of data come from? Is that source trustworthy? And has this data been authenticated, maybe with something like a cryptographic signature? Here's a great way to think about it. Provenance is basically an identity check for your data. Just like you check a digital certificate to verify a website or a signature to verify a file, Provenance verifies your data's source. And here's a really sharp distinction for you. Most of us get identity management, right? That's about verifying who is making a request. Well, data provenance does the exact same thing, but for the data itself. It verifies who or what actually created that data in the first place. Okay, so we've got the journey and we've got the origin. Now let's put them side by side so the difference becomes absolutely crystal clear. All right, pay attention because this slide is really the key to the whole thing. On the left, you've got lineage, the journey. It tracks how data moves and changes. It answers the question, how did it get here? Then on the right, you've got provenance, the origin. It verifies the source and its authenticity. It answers the question, where did it come from? See the difference? One's the path, the other's the starting point. If you remember nothing else from this, remember this sentence. Lineage shows you how the data moved. Provenance shows you where it came from. It's really that simple. So, now that we get the difference, let's talk about the important part, how these two concepts team up to help us build AI systems that we can actually genuinely trust. Let's walk through a real-world attack scenario. Okay, first, an attacker tries to sneak some bad data into your system. Provenance is your first line of defense. It's like a gatekeeper that just rejects anything from an unverified or untrusted source. But what if something slips past? Well, that's where Lineage comes in. It becomes your go-to forensic tool, letting you trace the exact path that bad data took so you can find the breach. And look, this stuff isn't just for fighting off attacks. These concepts are absolutely mandatory for modern compliance and governance. Whether we're talking about auditability, forensics, or meeting major standards like NIST or ISO, you need both. They're basically the twin pillars of AI transparency and accountability. So the main takeaway here is super simple. This is not an either-or choice. If you have provenance but no lineage, you have no idea what happened to your trusted data once it got in your system. And if you have lineage but no provenance, you're just carefully tracking the journey of potentially garbage data. You absolutely positively need both. And that really brings us to the final question, the one you should be asking yourself. Is your AI built on a verifiable foundation of trust, one that's powered by both lineage and provenance? Or is it just running on blind faith? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.